Some men will play games. You're probably thinking they all play games, but no, some men. But in this context, it's not playing games to manipulate you, hurt you. It's not with ill intention. It's for the sake of trying to figure you out, trying to understand what he's getting himself into. And so there are men out there who will do these little tests to try to gain information and perspective on what kind of woman you are. Now, I think the argument can be made that everyone is testing to some degree. And again, testing isn't always this direct action being taken to gain a certain reaction to it, but sometimes just paying attention to certain scenarios and how you react, how you handle it. And I think, again, as women, you probably do that as well. But I want you to be aware of these possible different areas that are being examined and looked at. And I do want you to understand that, let me make clear, I don't co-sign playing games in any kind of way. And I'm going to give y'all some stories of tests that I thought were completely ridiculous. All right. But it's what happens. So let's break some of this stuff down. And real quick, be sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel. So one of the first and big ways, especially in today's world, that men will test women is in regards to how you are with money. All right. So let me tell you a story real quick. So I remember this one guy, and supposedly he was like a network engineer. So he was making plenty of money, right? And he went on a date. And on his date, he purposely shows up in this bummy car. All right. I don't remember what kind of car it was, but it was a cheap, old, paint chipping, like just a bad car, okay? And dressed any kind of, decent, but nothing too special. Mind you, again, the man has a much nicer car, makes plenty of money. Went on a date with the woman, to see how she would react. She ended up, the date didn't go well. He drops her. And to him, it was like, I need to see if a woman's going to like me for me and not my car. Now, here's the thing. Though I understand the concern a lot of men have where some women may be after their money or like them more for their money, I still view that test, that game that he just played, as ridiculous. To me, if that's not really who you are, then it just doesn't make any sense. And to not think that even though a car should not be used against someone, all right, I do think that how you take care of or not take care of your car can be a reflection of certain aspects of you, especially as a man. I think that's just a reality, all right? And so I think it's not unreasonable for a woman to look at that and have some second thoughts about, okay, he doesn't even take care of his car. He doesn't have reliable transportation. Is he even ready for a real relationship right now? That might sound harsh to some people, but I think it's a fair thought. But the point here is men will do things like that, whether it be purposely going Dutch on the first date. Some guys, again, I think it's ridiculous, purposely saying, I left my wallet, not because he was unwilling to pay. He just wants to see how you're going to react to it. There's this, I don't want to say the word ridiculous, but there's this fear by so many men of women wanting their money. Now, let me say this. One of the reasons why I think it's a little ridiculous or unnecessary is because, I said the word ridiculous myself, I wouldn't say it. But one of the reasons I say it's unnecessary is because I feel like as a man, there are so many other ways to evaluate a woman's character and if you guys are truly on the same page and if it's genuine without having to resort to these little things. I also think that you never want to do tests that paint a different picture of you that isn't accurate, because now you're getting someone who may like that version of you and you don't realize they actually won't vibe with the better version of you. So to use that same example, all right, it's basically like this. If I'm the guy and I show up and I know I'm a guy who likes to live lavishly, let's say, And I like the finer things and all that kind of stuff. But because I want to test a woman, I come there, bummy clothes, bummy car, whatever, just trying to paint this completely different image. And let's just say that woman actually likes the simpler things. Maybe not bummy. Let's not use the word bummy. But she likes the simpler things. She doesn't like all the fancy. She thinks guys with expensive cars are turnoffs. So she all likes that version. And then now you show up with your nice expensive car and all the finer things. And she's like, this is not the life I signed up for. Anyways, I'm going a little off track. To bring it back, the bottom line is men will try to figure out how you are with the money. And I was going to mention this at the end, but I'll mention this even now. Like, don't overthink it. I don't want women hearing this and then saying, okay, well, just so he doesn't think I'm about the money, I'm going to ask him to go Dutch. Because the same way I just explained that if he presents a false representation of himself for the sake of trying to figure you out, he can set himself up for a situation that doesn't work best in the long run. So if you as a woman say, okay, well, to counter this test, I'm going to agree to pay my half so he doesn't think I'm about that money, when in reality, that's not the type of life you want to live. You don't want a 50-50 relationship with a man. Then you're setting the tables for something that he might think, oh, okay, I'm cool with this. I'm not cool with the real version that you want. So it is a mistake to try to counter any of these tests I'm about to lay out for you. You've got to stay true to yourself throughout all of this and accept when two people are just not on the same page. But yes, money is another big example. But something just hit my spirit, so I have to mention it. I gave y'all the test on when he's looking to see how you are with money in regards to what kind of woman he's getting, right? But please also understand there's going to be some men who test you as far as how much money they can get out of you. All right? There are going to be some men who are going to throw out the, let me borrow this, or I have to invest in this, to see how willing you are to finance them, essentially, and how far they can keep pushing. And what you'll notice is they ask once, all right, let's say everything goes smoothly. And I'm not even saying you should have given them the money. I'm just saying if you choose to, things go smoothly, all right. But then he's asking again and again. Because he tested you the first time, he saw how far he can go, and now he's going to keep pushing the boundaries. I literally had a question today in my coaching group about when a man is, in this situation, the guy was buying her gifts, treating her nice, but always asking her for money. And I'm like, yeah, so he's probably asking you for a couple $100, taking 20 to buy you some flowers to keep you happy and shut you up while he's still using your money. And the way you know if he's trying to use you is, does he keep doing it? Does he consistently ask you for it? So anyways, the point is there are men who are testing to figure out if you after their money, and there's going to be men who test you to see how much money they can get out of you. Be aware of both, but stay true to who you are and what you're comfortable with. All right, a second way that men will test women is to see how much you initiate and reciprocate. So unfortunately, I say unfortunately, in the dating landscape, a lot of women have the mentality of, well, I'm the prize. You're supposed to earn me, or you're supposed to prove to me you're worth my time, so to speak. And in that process of waiting to see if that man is worth your time, you're holding back, essentially. You're not really putting forth effort. You're not really reciprocating. And what happens in a lot of situations is that some guys will come out the gate putting forth maximum effort, all right? Doing their part, calling you, checking on you, all this stuff. But there comes a point where he starts to think, okay, wait a minute. If I don't reach out to her, will she reach out to me? Is she really into me, or is she just enjoying my attention? Am I getting played here, or is this woman serious? And so now with that concern, the test comes into play. All right, let me take a step back to see what she does. Okay? And what happens in a lot of scenarios is I've had women come to me and say, oh my gosh, this last man, he wasn't serious. I didn't hear from him for 5 days. I just cut him off. And I say, well, wait a minute. In those 5 days, did you call him? So you're over here mad because he didn't contact you in 5 days, but you never contacted him. Now, if you are someone who can say you've been making effort the whole time with him, so he has no reason to pull this nonsense. Okay, cool. But if you know he's been showing you all this effort while you've been enjoying it and kind of sitting back, it's not fair for you to now not even try during that time frame to reach out to him as well. Like, come on now. So men will do this as well as not just see if you'll initiate, but also see if you'll reciprocate. And what I mean with reciprocation is, all right, if I'm doing for you, what are you now going to do for me? Not in I will only do this expecting something in return. It's more so seeing a level of, is there appreciation here? Is there a respect for the effort that I'm giving and the things that I'm giving this woman? You know what I'm saying? Or is she just going to take? All right. And it doesn't mean you have to match exactly what he gives you. So, for example, if a man looks out for you, and this is just a random example. Let's just say you were getting your nails done. All right. And he decides on his own to say, hey, here's a few $100. Go take care of your nails. Go get your toes done, whatever, right? So he's cool with that. He's not necessarily expecting anything in return. But he is going to start to pay attention to what kind of woman you are moving forward. Are you someone that in your own way shows him appreciation? It might just be as simple as, okay, let's say you're coming to his house and you just say, hey, I'm about to stop and get some food. You want anything? Like, women make an issue of men not checking if they want to eat, all right, and not being considerate in those moments. But women don't realize some of them don't do it either. They don't think about him at all and making sure, do you need anything? Again, we're talking about a man who is providing, not just some raggedy old dude who's doing nothing. No, someone who's already shown you that he doesn't mind pouring into you. It's like, where's the reciprocation? He's not expecting you to pay for him to get his haircut. He's not expecting you to give him money in most cases. He's just saying, okay, do you show any consideration for me? Or maybe give him a little trinket here, something that you show him you're thinking about him, something. So yes, reciprocation and effort and the willingness to initiate is something, or one of the ways that men will test women. Oh, and real quick, before we move on to the next point, another story example popped in my head. So I know this one guy and he was dating multiple women. All right. He's single. He could do what he wants. All right. Don't suck your teeth or anything when you heard that. All right. And these women knew what he was doing. So there was no game plan. This is a very honest, upstanding guy. But anyways, to make a long story short, he ends up actually officially getting with one of the women. And he tells at that point, it was only two women. He tells the other woman, hey, I'm, making this girl my official girl. So, we can't be seeing each other. And that woman felt very hurt by that. But she asked him, like, why did you pick her and not me? And he said, because one, she shows me she cares. And she does for me. Like, when she comes and see me, she makes sure I'm good. She makes sure I'm taken care of. She's looking out for my well-being. Whereas you're just looking for what I do for you. And that was a huge factor, amongst other things, but that was a huge factor in who he chose. So yes, again, though I always tell y'all, don't get caught up being a wife to a guy who you're just dating or even just your boyfriend. But at the same time, you do have to pay attention to when there's a guy who is pouring into you, finding ways to pour back into him and showing that you are an equal partner in the way that you guys give to each other. Again, equal, not meaning the same things, but same effort. All right, so now we're on the third way men test women, and that's with your sexual values. All right? I'm sure some of y'all knew this was coming. Let's just be real about it. A lot of men are looking to see where you stand sexually, and the test can be in multiple ways. One of the simplest ways a man will test you with your sexual values and sexual willingness and sexual open-mindedness, so to speak, is simply just talking to you about it and asking you questions. One of the reasons I'm not scapegoating all the men who do this, because some of them are doing it for their own selfish reasons. But one of the reasons why some men get into sexual conversation very early in the dating process is because they're trying to make sure what they're getting themselves into. One of the big fears men have, even men, yes, who are, or even you could say especially men who are looking to get in a serious relationship, looking to one day marry, is ending up with a woman who cannot or is unwilling to sexually satisfy them. That's one of the biggest fears. You know, when you hear about men run away from marriage, it's because of this idea that sexually things go downhill after that. So he wants some kind of assurance that, okay, this is not going to be the case with you. And so again, it may just be at a level of, all right, asking you what type of things you're open to. What type of things have you done? Stuff like that, depending on the type of guy he is, because some guys are very prude and they're not going to go into that conversation, but others will. So that's one way. Another way, of course, is just flat out making a move and seeing how far it can go. All right. And here's the sad truth. I was hesitant to say this, but I'm going to be real. Here's the sad truth. And this is why it's so important that you don't react to these things and try to see how you can fit into certain boxes. You stay true to who you are. Because there are some men who will push the envelope, let's say on the first date, to try to sleep with you, only to judge you for actually giving in or for actually taking part in, I don't want to use the word giving in, but taking part in, engaging sexually. All right. I've seen this happen. And so there's no way to know for sure what kind of guy you're getting in this scenario. If he's the guy who, all right, things just naturally moved along fast, or there are plenty of men too. Let me make that clear. There are plenty of men who can have sex on the first date and still end up marrying a woman. That doesn't mean I advise that you do it. That does not mean that I think that is a recipe for success. All right. There are exceptions to the rule. There are men that exist that they won't judge you regardless, but I would still advise on being patient and waiting as best as you can. All right. But the point is that, yes, that can go into his evaluation of you and how you get down. And there are some men who will look at it as, well, if you did this with me, who else have you done this with? All right. Or they have, I'm going to use the word immature friends who will put that thought in their head if those friends know about the situation. I've seen it where a couple who did hook up on the first date, I want to say many months later, while they were in an official relationship, things start getting sketchy. They start having some problems. And one of the male friends was like, well, what did you expect? She let you have it on the first date. That was his thinking. Now, again, I repeat, does every man think like that? No. I do think there's probably a lot more liberal-minded men now than once upon a time, but there are still many conservative men, and there are still men who will co-sign what I just said as far as, hell yeah, that's exactly what they think. All right? So that is something to just be aware of. All right? But yes, what your values are, and the last way he may test you sexually is the whole, your sexual history. And some are trying to dig to then use it against you. All right. And here's the thing. Again, just reiterating the point of being yourself. Because I don't ever want to tell y'all to lie. I'm not going to encourage anyone to lie. But I understand, I would never ask how many people my partner slept with. I just think it's not important for us to discuss that. But at the same time, if it came up, I wouldn't lie, and I wouldn't want her to lie, but I know I'm not going to judge somebody on that, right? But if he's going to judge you, wouldn't you want to know that as early as possible? This is why I'm saying just being yourself. If being yourself with this guy is going to lead to being judged, then you simply figure out early that this is not a good match. You would rather end up with the guy who can hear the real truth and still say, all right, cool. I still love you. I still want to be with you. I'm not fazed by that. That would be so much better. And the beauty of that is, a lot of times men have a certain perception of their partner, of their woman, that, let's just say they think, there might be a guy who thinks his girl is an innocent angel who's never done anything scandalous in her life, right? Only to find out 7 years into the relationship, this girl was off the chain. Right? It was all over the place, right? And now he can't handle it. And it completely, and I've seen this, it completely destroys him. And he does not know how to handle it. And it leads to the end of their relationship and him just looking at her completely different. And so it's like, yo, let's get these things out the way early, because there are men who can handle it, who won't take issue with it. Let those who will end up with someone who actually is conservative or who is on that same path as him, so it doesn't cause a problem down the road. It's like we're just kicking the issue down the road, and that's pointless. All right, so real quick before I move on to the next one, again, people always ask me about coaching. As I mentioned, I was actually doing a coaching call earlier today, and I want you to be able to have that experience. Not only will you be able to jump on the coaching call and get your questions answered personally, but also you're going to learn about healing, tapping into your feminine energy, meeting relationship-minded men, and so much more. So take advantage right now, limited time. Join my special coaching program. Click the link in the description or in the comment section, or go to receivingmyblessings.com. You are going to love it. So now let's move on to number, I think it's 4 on this list. Yes, 4. And the other way that men will test you is with how you carry yourself. But I want to highlight right now social media. Okay? So I was actually just at an event over the weekend, and the question was asked, how do men determine just by looking at a woman if she's wifey material, or what can get a woman basically knocked off that potential list? And the guy who the question was asked to mentioned how women present themselves online. And so I know there's a lot of women who think, well, men want the provocative women. And I actually had a woman friend who says that she has other friends who recently went from being conservative to provocative online because they feel like they weren't getting the attention being conservative. And so there's this tricky dynamic going on, because let me say this. Yes, men will show more attention to the provocative online. However, they're not necessarily looking at the provocative as wifey material. Are there men who will still get with a woman who's provocative online as wife? Yes. If I'm honest, I'm one of those guys. I wouldn't hold it against a woman. It doesn't faze me in that way. All right. And I'm someone who I probably have more reason to be concerned with it due to branding and all that kind of stuff. And I do think there's a line. Don't get me wrong. I got a line. Okay. But I'm probably still very open-minded in that way for various reasons. But I know plenty of men who they don't play that at all. And any level of provocativeness online with the way the woman presents herself is like, oh no, done. I know a guy who almost broke up with his girl for that reason. They got the situation worked out. But yeah, it can be a problem. So with that said, when we talk about testing, so remember I said earlier, testing isn't always this blatant action to see how you handle it or your reaction. Sometimes it's a matter of observing you in certain situations and things of that nature. And so social media is one of those things. Let me also say this. I know of the same way women will say, well, these men only want these provocative women, or what some of you may label as IG models, whatever the case may be. Well, I know a woman who is an esthetician, and she told me, she says she knows of women who are quote unquote IG models who actually turned away from that presentation because it was causing them to have a struggle with finding genuine relationship. Okay. So while some of y'all may think they're getting it all, or it's easy no, it's not easy for anybody. All right. You know, it's everyone has to be mindful of various factors that can play into whether they're going to experience success with dating and relationships or not. All right. But anyways, to get back to the point, I'm highlighting online, but of course in person is also going to play a part. How you present yourself to the world, how you not just present yourself to the world, but how you interact with men in general. All these things are going to be, in essence, a way he's testing you to see how you operate, to see how if what to him translates to you being able to be trusted. I'm going to go into that a little bit more on a different point, but understand that's where a lot of this connects, because a lot of men will view the provocative woman as, oh, like they say, I'm not saying I say it. They say, she's for the streets. I'm sure y'all have heard this term before, all right? And they'll view it as that because she's more liberal with the way she presents herself online. Now, I will say this. I think one of the reasons why I'm a little different in the way that I look at it is because I know through talking to so many different people and seeing so many different scenarios that this one aspect doesn't define the person. And there's various reasons why someone may engage in certain behaviors, but it doesn't tell you the whole story. And so because of that, I don't judge people based off of this little thing or this thing or that thing. There's more to that woman than that. You know what I'm saying? And to me, if the totality of who you are is still an amazing woman, I'm not going to discredit you for that one thing. But the average man does not have the experience or the privilege to have seen deeper into people's lives like I have. So I understand that their perception is going to be limited or is going to be shaped by what they have gotten to experience. And that is where they see a lot of this provocativeness turn into scandalous behavior, so to speak. All right. And that's where they start to make the connection. So anyways, bottom line is, yes, this is definitely an area that a lot of men are testing women and using it as a way to evaluate if you're a woman that he can take serious. All right. So I was going to move on to the next point, but a point was just made. So let me cover this real quick. Again, it goes back to being yourself. As a woman, you have to be true to who you are. I'm not here to determine whether you should be provocative or should not be provocative. I'm here to tell you, tap into what makes you happy. All right. I think, of course, yes, we want to be mindful of certain things because there can be, how we carry ourselves can bring forth certain types of energy to us. All right. So we do have to be aware of that. But I do think, as was mentioned to me, some women, so there are women who are presenting themselves as very conservative because you're afraid of how it may look if you be a little bit more provocative, but you're going against what your nature may be, what's true to you, where you find some happiness and freedom. All right. Then there's other women who may be trying to be provocative, hoping it gets them attention, but your true nature isn't being conservative. And that's where you have your peace. And so I always want you as a woman to go where you truly find happiness, finding your true self, walking in that with confidence, being that woman. All right. So wherever it is, do that. But I will say this before I move on to the next point, balance is always good. I think when we can do both, as they say, all right, that's a great thing. I think you're conservative, but maybe if you're in a relationship, there's going to be moments where you can be a little more provocative. You know what I'm saying? And vice versa. There's going to be times where it's time to be a little more conservative. I just think the ability to do both is great, but again, be true to who you are. All right, so now that brings me to the fifth way men test women, and that's in seeing how loyal you are. So piggybacking off what we just talked about, a lot of men correlate how a woman carries herself and presents herself with how much she can be trusted. All right. And the more provocative, the less she can be trusted. Plain and simple. But loyalty or testing your loyalty goes beyond just that, because sometimes it's not about, like, you can be the woman who's not dressing all provocative, and yet due to what he's experienced, he may not know if he can trust you. Because listen, contrary to what some of you believe or may believe, a lot of men have been burned. A lot of men have been cheated on. A lot of men have been betrayed. So these men now are very skeptical in putting a trust in a woman. Now, you know me, I believe we don't put trust in people. We put trust in God, and we let God guide us to who we should be dealing with. But besides that point, men are evaluating loyalty. So now one quick story. I know of a situation where a guy purposely left his girl with one of his homeboys to see what would happen and wanted his homeboy to flirt and make a move to see if she would go for it or not. All right. Unfortunately, this story, she failed. I'm sorry to laugh, but it was I don't know what she was thinking. She failed. She failed miserably. Okay. But the point is that yes, sometimes there are some men out there who will purposely put women in certain situations like that to see how they handle it. All right. Or, there are some people who believe, I just saw a meme the other day about, if his homeboys come over, you need to go to your room. All right. Now, I'm not here to argue whether that's right or wrong. I'm here to say that is how some men think. Some men are seeing, okay, if my homeboys are over, is she going to try to hang out with us? Or is she just going to go, in her own room or go out with her friends or whatever? Or take it a step further. How does she dress when my friends are around? That's a big one for some people. Like, I shouldn't have to tell you, don't be walking around here with no booty shorts or tight clothes and my boys are around. Now, some of you may hear this and think this is ridiculous. That's controlling, whatever. I'm not here arguing whether that is or isn't. I'm telling you this is what happens and what a lot of men are paying attention to, all right? There are men who don't care, who genuinely don't care, but there are tons who do, all right? And so all those little things, you're just, even how friendly you are with his friends compared to him. If you are touchy with the friends, that's going to be looked at. And again, things like that, what happens is it's not even just his mind and how he's testing you. It's his friends now coming to him saying, yo, your girl, I don't know about her. She was a little extra friendly over there. She's doing too much. They'll put poison in his head, even if she had no ill intention or whatever the case may be. So that's loyalty, definitely an area that men are testing women in. All right. Now the 6 way men test women. And let me just say, there's a lot of ways. I'm going to stop at 7, but there's a lot of ways. I might have to do another part 2 video to break down some more ways. But anyways, 6th way that men test women is your ability to listen. All right. And so again, this is one of those situations where he's paying attention. He may not create a situation to see if you listen, but he's paying attention to see if you do. So an example story that comes to mind is I had a client and we were talking about the issue of listening, because it was a situation where her man felt like he wasn't the man in the relationship and they were clashing a lot. And I have brought up I think there may be a situation where he feels like you don't respect his opinion and you don't listen to him. And then she ended up explaining a story where she had an issue with her car. She goes to her guy and says, she lets him know what's happening. He says to her, listen, I got a mechanic. I'm going to take it to him on Wednesday. Let me take care of this. All right. She decides on her own, man, he don't know what he's talking about. I'm going to go to my own mechanic, some other guy, to get the car taken care of. So she did that. He ends up finding out about it. He's like, I told you I would take care of this. I told you I had somebody. And the guy who she did took it to didn't even do a good enough job, the right job with it. So he still had to end up doing it, but it was like, you don't listen. And it ended up being an extension of other areas that he felt like she was not respecting his input or willingness to listen to him and things of that nature. So it's definitely something that many men are being mindful of, because again, it goes back to like, you don't want to be in this relationship where there's this constant resistance from your partner. There's this constant unwillingness to trust your guidance or leadership in certain areas. Even if you're a woman who says, well, why does he have to be able to lead in the relationship? Which, we can have a whole discussion on that. The point is, at least in certain moments, you should be able to trust his leadership. Like, that was such a simple thing for her, just to listen and let the man take care of it. That's it. And I know some of you would say, well, I can take care of it myself. But if he's offering, let him. And if he tells you, I got it, let him handle it. Because when you go against that, not only do you show a lack of respect for what he knows, his knowledge, his wisdom in this situation, all right? Not only do you show unwillingness to listen, but you undermine his ability to pour love into you. The man doing for you, providing for you, is a way of showing love, showing I care, showing I got you. And you undercut that when you do stuff like that. So be mindful of that, but definitely that's another area men are testing women in. All right, and the last way we're going to talk about today that men will test women, and this is if the relationship or situation is going that far, or he has plans to take it this far, is how you are around family and friends. So I mentioned earlier friends as far as the loyalty aspect, but I'm talking now as far as, do you get along with them? Do you talk to them? You know, and considering that that this is not a dysfunctional family. I think the man knows if he has a dysfunctional family, he's not expecting you to navigate that. Or maybe some are. Maybe some are still seeing, how will you handle my dysfunctional family? Because you're gonna have to deal with them for an extended period of time or for the rest of your life if we end up getting married. So just seeing how you operate in that environment, seeing if they like you, you know, how you're able to interact with them, what kind of rapport you're able to grow with them. This is definitely a way that he's going to test you, but also not just how you get along with friends, family, but it could also be how you are with kids. If he is a man who desires to have children and is looking to see what kind of mother you will be, he's going to want to see how you are around children. Are you playful, attentive, compassionate? Can you deal with them? Or are you very impatient and dismissive? You know, how do you get along with them? Do you have that nurturing spirit in you? And so these are all things that a man will consider. But again, I'm going to say one more time, because, you know, I also put in the title of how to win him over. And I did that to simply address the fact of, don't worry about winning nobody over. Win yourself. Like, listen, be true to you. Don't lose yourself trying to get the attention of a man. Yes, I want you to improve in areas that need improvement. I want you to be the best woman you can be, but I want you to be you. All right. And the win is when two people being themselves can come together, experience a connection and say, we love this. This is what we want. We're good. Not when two people bring their fake representative to try to win each other over, only to end up in a dysfunctional relationship later. All right. So the real win is in finding yourself, loving yourself, being true to yourself, not trying to fit into any of these boxes, but just really being confident in walking in your true energy and being your best you.